Episode 50 was with Malia Civetz.
Thank you to Samantha over at Warner, and make sure to check out her new single, Broke Boy. I love it.
And follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Bringing It Backwards, and on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
Follow us, please.
And we're Bringing It Backwards with Malia Civetz. Hi, Malia.
Hey, Adam.
How are you?
I'm good. It's a really, really interesting time.
I know. And what a time for you to release your debut single with everybody losing their job. There's going to be a lot of us broke boys.
Unfortunately timely.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of wild.
My friend texted me and she was like, yo, you're about to get a lot more options. And I was like, okay, it's a story that I'm telling. I was like, I didn't want everyone to go broke.
Right. Totally. It'll swing back. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately right now.
Totally.
It's kind of wild. So where'd you grow up? Did you grow up I think I read you grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah, so I lived in Hawaii and Vegas, so two completely opposite places.
Wow.
I lived in Hawaii. Yeah, I lived in Hawaii until I was 5, and my parents were in the hotel industry. And when they got transferred, they needed to look for a house, and so for a while we actually lived in the hotel in a suite. And so I was like, Eloise.
And that was in Hawaii or in Vegas where you lived in the hotel?
That was in Hawaii, and so
wow.
Lived in a hotel for a while, and I would always go to my parents' like client dinners with them, just because I was always a chill little kid, and so I would see like live performances and music because there's live music everywhere you go in Hawaii, and I was always just like enamored by it, by the instrumentalists and the hula dancers. Like I would ask my parents to pull me out of my high chair, and I would go just like look at the hula dancers and just like follow along with what they were doing and dance with them.
That's amazing.
And so performing has just always been in my heart since before I can remember. And then moving to Vegas, like everybody comes through Vegas. So you get to see so many cool entertainers, and a bunch of my dad's friends knew that I loved to sing. And so they'd be like, oh yeah, like your daughter likes to sing, have her come see Celine Dion. And like, all of the different shows and musicals that would come through and play at the hotels on the Strip. It was just like an awesome place to grow up as somebody who loves entertaining.
Yeah, totally. That's like the perfect place to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah, literally 24/7.
Yeah. You said your parents were in the hotel industry. Were they musical at all?
No, not at all. So they were on the like hospitality kind of like sales side, and have always been lovers of music, but not musically inclined whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Like, I joke that like they can't carry a tune in a bucket. Like love them, but really not musically gifted at all. I think I actually get it from my grandparents. So my grandma on my dad's side played the piano and like sang in church choir, but nothing professional. And then my grandpa on my mom's side just always had a really nice voice, and he played the violin when he was a kid, but never pursued anything professionally musically, but he had a really beautiful voice, and so we kind of sang together when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. So you have memories of you singing with your grandparents?
Yeah, and just like he always loved like Tony Bennett, and my grandma loved Dean Martin, so I got just jazz standards from both of my grandparents, because my other grandma who sang loved Frank Sinatra. And then living in Vegas, I got the jazz standard education for sure.
What was the first show you saw in Vegas as a kid, like the first musical act? Do you remember?
I do remember, because I was really confused. We went to see the musical 42nd Street, and my parents, like, I think I was maybe 6 or 7. And so they were like, we're going to go see 42nd Street. And I thought they were literally talking about a street. And I was like, what's so special about a street? Why are we going to see a street? And but I didn't voice those questions. And so we get there, and I'm like sitting in the theater, and I was like, when are we going to go see the street? And they were like, oh, no. It's the musical is called 42nd Street. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we saw the show and I was just like totally enamored by like the glitz and the glamour and all of the people dancing and just like the extravagance of it all. And so as much as I like consider myself to be musically influenced by the Hawaiian Islands, there's the other half of me that's just like really, really all for the showgirls and the glamour of Vegas.
Did you ever aspire to be, in one of those Vegas shows, or did you always kind of?
So, I kind of did it all as a kid, and so I went to a performing arts high school, and I was a theater major, and so for the longest time I thought I was going to pursue theater, but I ended up finding out about the USC Pop Music Program because I had always sang in performance groups like from the time I think I started when I was 7, and so we would perform in different shows all around the Strip. I was just doing basically anything that I could to perform for my whole life. Like I did dance classes, we had dance recitals, like I did all of it. And then I found out about the USC Pop Program, and I saw some people who were in the program perform, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And so I auditioned and then got in, and that's sort of what brought me to LA originally.
Okay, so you were going. The other school you're attending wasn't in Los Angeles. Was that in?
No, so it was a high school. It was my high school.
Oh, okay. So your high school is actually a performing arts high school.
Yeah.
Did you have to audition to get into the school?
Yeah, you did. And so that was what made it a really different high school experience, I think, from most people, just because everybody wanted to be there. And I feel like the one thing that high school kids have in common is they're like, I don't want to be here.
Sure.
And so at my school, it was different because everybody wanted to be there for whatever their major was. And so it's like there were theater majors, choir majors, dance majors, language majors, photography, art, and so it was a really special high school experience. And it was so free, and everybody was free to be themselves, which was kind of beautiful, but didn't necessarily prepare me for the real world because everybody was free to be themselves. And so we didn't necessarily experience any kind of like discrimination at the school. And it was, when I was a freshman, it was when Born This Way by Lady Gaga came out. And so it was basically sort of like an unofficial school anthem because we had so many different kinds of people, different sexualities, different walks of life. And we all really believed in that. And then to come to the big city of Los Angeles and be like, whoa, okay, not everybody is on that same page.
Right. Yeah. So was that a pretty big shock to you?
I mean, because I'm in the music industry, I don't see as much of it because it's a pretty accepting place.
Right.
But just different things like being exposed to in the real world was kind of a shock because I lived in this like fantasy wonderland where everybody loved each other. So it was an interesting difference.
And at that high school, what was the entrance exam like? Like, did you have to perform a song? Like, how did you get in?
Yeah, so I performed just a couple different monologues because I was auditioning to be a theater major.
Oh,
I think I sang something as well. But yeah, I had a couple different monologues. I think I remember my monologue was about was a pet eulogy. That's the monologue that I chose, but I made it comedic somehow. It was really interesting. But yeah, so when I was in that high school, I was in a vocal jazz group, and we saw an a cappella group perform from USC that I ended up joining when I got there. And that group kind of started everything for me. So when I got to USC to be a pop major, then I auditioned for the a cappella group. And my senior year, we had our 25th anniversary, and I met songwriter Ross Golan, who at that point, Dangerous Woman by Ariana Grande had just come out, and he wrote that.
Wow.
And so we met at the 25th anniversary. He heard me sing and then was like, hey, send me your stuff. I want to help you. And so when I graduated from USC, he introduced me to his publisher and helped me get a publishing deal, like basically right after I graduated college, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, that's really insane. Wow.
Yeah.
So he just took you under his wing, kind of.
Yeah, he took me under his wing, and I'm really, really grateful for him and Ryan Press at Warner Chappell for kind of taking a chance on me. And Ross then introduced me to J Cash, who at that time, right when I first met him, he was working on writing the last Charlie Puth album that came out with Charlie and executive producing the Maroon 5 album. But this was like, none of that had actually come out yet. So I didn't even really know like how big, like how they were literally, they are industry titans. And I had no idea. I was like coming into this meeting like, hello, nice to meet you, some guy. And then I find out later that they're doing this. And I was like, oh, wow, these guys are really important. So it was kind of a shock to me, but Ross introduced me to Cash, and we wrote a bunch of songs together. And then Ross and Cash signed me to a development deal. Wow. And so I worked with them, wrote a ton of songs, and one of those songs was Champagne Clouds, which eventually it was my first single that was released on the radio, and it was kind of how everything started for me. That's what got me eventually on the road with JoJo when I opened for her on her Leaks Covers and Mixtapes tour in 2018, and then helped me through Ross and J Cash get in touch with Aaron Bashuk, who wanted to bring me to Warner Records once he made the move.
Okay.
So that kind of leads us to where we are now.
Sure. I have a question about writing with those guys. Had you ever written? Were you writing songs prior to that, or was that kind of your first hands-on like writing experience?
I had written before that, but not at that level.
Right.
I will say it's kind of nuts because they're both like J Cash is one of the most amazing lyricists I've ever met. He can just like stare off into the corner and then the words just kind of like fall out of his mouth, and it's really magical to get to watch. And then just the way that like Ross will throw out an incredible melody, and then Cash will tweak it and just be like, whoa, what if we simplify it and do this and this? Like just watching them work together was a great learning experience for me, because I had written, but at that time I didn't even really consider myself a songwriter, even though I had written songs before, but like not anywhere near the caliber of these two. And so It was definitely a daunting experience, but it taught me a lot. It's been interesting just to like look at myself as a songwriter now, when previously I was just like, oh yeah, like I'm an artist and I'm a singer, but I didn't even consider myself a songwriter until for the past couple of years I've been in sessions writing music almost every day.
Wow. Going into a writing session, like kind of your first writing session, and it's with these massive songwriters, was that intimidating to you? Or
it was interesting because Ross was like, okay, cool, I'm going to introduce you to this guy, and it's basically just like a meeting, and if it goes well and he seems to be down, I'll be like, hey, how about we write a song? And then if that doesn't happen, don't worry about it, like we're just like we're going to see how this goes. And I was like, okay. And so I showed up and I was like, yo, nice to meet you. We talked for a while. And then at a certain point, Ross was like, so should we write a song? And I was like, yes, I did it.
Nice.
Like, I did whatever I was supposed to do. And it was interesting, though, because, like, me being, I think at that time I was 22 or 21, and I'm in the room with these, like, 35-year-old dudes, and they're like, so what's up? Like, what do you want to write about? And I was like, okay, I guess we're about to like dive into my love life right now with these two guys that I like don't really know that well.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful that I'm just like I'm an open person. Like I'm definitely an open book and when it comes to things like this. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. And just like started babbling, and they were like, oh wow, she doesn't hold back. And I was like, nope, not really. So I think it worked well.
Yeah, so it wasn't difficult for you to open up to them and tell them like kind of what you were feeling, and they could help put that into.
No, I was very comfortable and still am very comfortable with both of them. There's something about them that, like, it's sort of like, I consider them like my musical dad, but I guess it's probably more like uncle vibes because I'm totally chill talking to them about my love life and like everything that's going on. And I tell them things they probably don't want to hear, but you know, I'm really thankful that we can have that kind of relationship.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. The first song you really put out was Champagne Clouds.
Yeah, that was the first official one.
And then that song, like Ryan Seacrest premiered it on Kiss, and how did that happen?
It was a crazy time because Jay Cash actually had met with John Ivey, who was at iHeartRadio at the time, and they had a meeting, and at that point he had like the Charlie Puth stuff and the Maroon 5 stuff, and so like Jay Cash was playing all of that stuff for him. And then John Ivey was like, "Hey, so what are you excited about?" And Jay Cash played Champagne Clouds, but all I had was the piano demo. So it wasn't produced out at all. It was just the song. It was just myself and piano. And John Ivey turned to Jay Cash and was like, "I'm going to put this on the radio." And so
wow,
Cash was like, "Whoa, okay." But also like, he actually didn't tell me about it for a while because he wanted to make sure that it was actually going to happen. And so I didn't even know about it until I got an email that was like, "Okay, cool, John Ivey wants to meet for breakfast." And at that point, I didn't even know who he was. And so I Googled him. And then the first article that came up was like top 10 most influential people in radio. And he was literally number 1. And I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay, this guy's important, like really important."
Yeah.
And so we chatted and then we had our meeting and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to put this on the radio." And that's how it happened.
And did he put that piano version on?
Oh, no. No, we got it produced.
Okay.
Yeah. We finished. They should.
Yeah, but that
that
says
original
something.
piano demo was good, but you know, not as good as where we ended up.
Sure. But I mean, to have a song that's just a voice and a piano, and for this, you know, huge radio person to be like, this is good enough to put on the air. I mean, you have to have something there.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy for me. It made me really, really proud of the work that I had been doing songwriting. And I actually, my roommate is the guy that I wrote Champagne Clouds with. And so it's been really cool to like go on this journey together and see see everything that has happened in my career because of this thing that we made one day.
Totally. Yeah.
And it was cool because when we wrote the song, so when we wrote it, I was actually sleeping on my friend's couch at the time. Like the publishing deal hadn't gone through yet. And so like we were still in the negotiating phases. And so I was sleeping on my friend's couch, and then I would come over to the apartment that I now live in, and we would write this song. And so because I was here writing with him so much, I was here the day that one of their roommates was like, "Hey, I'm moving out. I'm moving in with my boyfriend." And all of the roommates were in the kitchen talking, and we had worked really late the night before. And so I had fallen asleep on the couch. And so they were like, "Man, who are we going to get to be our new roommate?" And my publishing deal had just gone through. And so I kind of walked into the kitchen and I was like, "How about me?" Because I'm here all the time anyway. And they were like, "Oh, great. We love you. Cool." And so then like I moved in like a couple weeks later.
Nice. So you're even able to get a living situation out of the song as well.
Yeah, it did a lot of good things for me.
So then the second song you released was Little Victories. Was that the song that Taylor Swift like playlisted on Spotify? And
no, that was actually Champagne Clouds.
Oh, that was Champagne Clouds as well. Okay, wow.
Yeah, so it's like Champagne Clouds did a lot.
How was that moment? That
was kind of crazy. Like I woke up and my friend texted me and was like, "Hey, you're on Taylor Swift's favorite song playlist." And I was like, "Excuse me?"
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Have you ever met her?
No, I haven't.
Did she ever comment to you about the song? She just
favorited
it?
Yeah, she just put it on her playlist and I was like, "Wow, thanks, Kay. Appreciate you."
Yeah, that's cool. Wow. That's huge. That'll catch some eyes, you know?
Yeah, very much so.
So the follow-up was Little Victories, which still had over 3 million plays. And that's how you got the JoJo tour?
So, yeah, I guess it was kind of like a combination of Little Victories and Champagne Clouds, but I was put in to open for her. And she liked what I had out, and we sent her some of the unreleased stuff, and her team were down. And so that's kind of what helped me get on tour with her. And it was really cool, like, as far as that tour, that I got to use the band that I had been working with since I was in college.
Oh, really?
Because in the pop music program, there's like, you go in and you're either like, you go in as a singer or a songwriter or a guitar player or a bass player. And so I had my band that I was working with at school, and like they all had to audition to get in too, and they just happen to be some of the most like incredible musicians there are, and also like my friends.
Yeah.
And so it was really awesome to be able to like hire my friends in a professional way, because we had been playing together and they'd been playing with me for free for so long. And so to be able to like do all of this officially and hire them, not because they were my friends, but because they're good, and being able to like come to Ross and J Cash and be like, hey, I have a musical director. I've been working with her for forever. And they were like, oh, like, we'll get you somebody who's like a professional. And at that time she was on tour with Troye Sivan and had done like a leg of the Miley Cyrus tour and Rita Ora. And so I listed everything that she had done. And I was like, I mean, we might not even be able to get her. She's so busy. And they were like, oh yeah, cool. We can talk to her. She sounds good. And I was like, yeah, she's not, I'm not just like trying to hire my friends. Like I happen to be hiring my friends, but I would hire them anyway because they're that good.
Was that your first experience on tour?
Yeah, it was my very first tour experience, and I literally don't think I could have had a better one. Like, everybody on JoJo's team was so nice. Like, we all felt like a little family by the end. And it was really cool just to like, she for sure is like one of our generation's best vocalists, like hands down, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. And so to get to watch her just kill it every night was really, really special for, you know, me as an up and coming artist, and just to like watch her and learn. Like,
what were some of the things that you could pick up from her?
I mean, just the amount that like, she really feels every word she sings. And that's what it's beautiful, especially given like, you know, in our world where we're so focused on like social media, and there's a lot of things that seem so fake. Like when she gets up there and stands at a mic, like it's real. And so it was just really beautiful to watch. I mean, aside from the fact that she's like an incredible singer.
What was your first live performance?
Like ever?
Yeah, let's go ever, and then as a solo artist.
Ever. I guess. I mean, I sang in church when I was little, and so my like children's choir teacher, Mr. Bob, was actually the person who he like pulled my parents aside one day and was like, "Hey, she's like kind of good at this singing thing." And my parents were like, "Really? Cool," because they're not musically gifted at all. And so but I'm super lucky that I have the parents that I do, because I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing if it wasn't for them, because they fully supported me from day one. I was like, I want to sing. And they were like, okay, how do we help you do that? And so they had me, you know, it's like I was in singing lessons, piano lessons, dance class, like all of the things to help me succeed. And I think because of that, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because they were so supportive.
Wow. Yeah, that's great that you had supportive parents, because there are a lot of people that you want to pursue music and they're like, no, you have to play baseball and do that as a hobby.
Exactly. Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
Really cool.
So it was, I just realized I totally didn't even answer your question.
Oh, no.
So the first performance was the Christmas play. I was little 5-year-old Virgin Mary, and I sang a song called Midnight Miracle. that was my first performance, and I was 5.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of went from there. There's something about being on stage that's calming to me.
That's like the total opposite of me. I would be terrified to go out in front of a bunch of people all the time.
It's super weird. Like I'm totally good when it comes to like singing or dancing in front of people, but the minute that I have to open my mouth and speak, I've gotten better at it. But just like speaking to people, I don't know why I freeze up and I'm like,
oh, like in between songs and stuff?
Thank you for being here today. Yeah, I've definitely gotten better at it, but ever since I was a little kid, my parents would be like, Malia, slow down. And I mean, I still talk really fast. And so I'd be talking to the audience and be like, thank you guys so much for having me. And this was What a Wonderful World. And blah, blah, blah. And I would just talk so fast. And so my parents would, and especially because back when I was in Vegas, I would be performing for a lot of elderly crowds. And so they were like, you can't talk that fast because like, we can't understand you. So like this whole crowd of elderly people definitely didn't understand you. And I was like, cool. Noted.
That's funny. So what was your first solo show then?
Well, I mean, I did a lot of solo performances, even in Vegas because I was in like kids singing groups and we'd all do solo performances. And then I would kind of go off and do stuff on my own. And there were two performers in Vegas, Kelly Clinton and Clint Holmes, that kind of took me under their wing, and they would bring me out and have me sing at their shows.
Oh, wow.
But I guess my first solo performance as like officially as an artist, I guess some of them would be when I was at USC.
Okay.
Playing with my band. My first performances as like the artist that I am now. Mm-hmm. Probably, I'm trying to remember when it was. It was like when I was practicing. Okay. Practicing for the JoJo tour. I did a residency in Costa Mesa.
Oh, cool.
I made sure it was super far away so that I could practice with nobody seeing what was up.
Did you perform under like an alias or anything like that, or just under your
No.
Your name?
I really thought about it though, because there is a friend of mine. I don't want to give away their secrets, but they were in a band and they wanted to play shows under an alias. And so their alias was Evans Essence, which I thought was hilarious. So I couldn't come up with a name that was better than that. So I was like, fine, I'll just be me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of artists doing that, like, or an artist they'll play under a different name to kind of practice songs or do stuff like that. Yeah. That's really funny.
Yeah, it was a great time.
So tell me about the new single Broke Boy and how'd you get hooked up with Warner Records and all that? I want to hear that story.
So Broke Boy, we actually wrote last year at a songwriting camp that we held for me for 2 weeks at a studio up in Burbank. And so every single day I'd come in at like 11 a.m. We'd have 2 studios going at the same time. And so I'd start in one studio, start writing a song with the people in that room. And then generally the other studio would have somebody in there who I had worked with before. So they kind of knew like things that I would say or stuff that I'd like to talk about or what I like musically. And so then I'd hop into that second room and be like, okay, cool. How are you guys doing? Play me what you got. I'd make tweaks, keep writing with them, and then just keep going back and forth from room to room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience. And so Broke Boy came out of that writing camp. And we had written one song that was just like, okay. Uh-huh. And we got to a certain point where we were like, okay, let's just try something new. And then the producer, JR, started playing the chords that you hear on the record. Like that, he just started playing those and everybody in the room was like, yo,
oh, cool.
That's fire.
Yeah.
let's do that. So we started messing with melodies. And I think it was J Cash who was just like, yo, like, what about Broke Boy? Like, and then he kind of has this magic ability for me to like talk about my life and what's going on. And then like perfectly summarize it in like a title and a concept. and so we wrote the song and we just wanted to like celebrate, have something celebratory and celebrate love because there was so much like negativity in the world. And I really think it's important to like have some sort of like happy respite, I guess.
Yeah.
And be able to take the time to appreciate who you're with, not for what they have, but for who they are.
I love that. That's amazing.
And then I signed with Warner in April of 2019. Wow. And so I had written Broke Boy a couple months before signing with them. And so that kind of became like, okay, cool. We have this song. This will be the first thing that we do. And so we spent most of 2019 basically just kind of like preparing and trying to figure out the best way to bring the song into the world.
were you trying to go to? Were you like shopping other labels around? Like, how did that work? Or was Warner Brothers approached you and you're like, this is the best. This is perfect.
Yeah, there were a couple people that I had talked to, but there was something that just felt right about Warner Brothers, and Ross and J Cash had worked with Aaron Bachuk a ton, and they already had an existing relationship.
Okay.
And when I went in for the meeting, it just became very clear that like that he was a guy who like really cared about the music and understood what I was trying to do. And like within the music that I have, I want to kind of like, you know, everybody's talking about gender roles now, but just kind of like redefine like what it means to be a woman, and what femininity means and what masculinity means, and how both of those can work together in one person.
Mm-hmm.
And so just trying to take a look at like the new age of like being a woman and what exactly that means.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and he totally got that. He understood what I was trying to do. And so that's the most important thing to me, is that he gets the music.
Yeah. And he gets what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And fully supports what I'm trying to say. And we've had like a really beautiful relationship where we all like, you know, we all listen to each other. And there's a ton of people on the team because I'm signed to Warner through Ross and J Cash. And so everybody's like, really, I feel so lucky that I have so many incredible people that are a part of what I do.
Yeah. It's good to have, people that you trust around you and that are supporting you and understanding what you want, what you're trying to say. And is that kind of the theme to what will become an album, or do you have an EP coming out?
Well, so now we're just focusing on the next release. There's going to be a single coming soon.
Okay.
But now, because everything is kind of up in the air, given the state of the world, we're trying to figure out what the exact plan is. We're not sure. So right now we're just focusing on, like, I have a ton of music and a bunch of stuff that's like pretty much finished. And so we're just trying to figure out how all of these puzzle pieces work together.
Yeah, totally understand that, especially right now. I mean, you can't book tours. You can't really go out and promote anything.
I told her, like,
other than,
we wanted to do some live shows. And so those are kind of, not possible at the moment. So we're trying to restructure how to move forward.
Yeah. Have you been, or do you have interest in doing any of those like live streaming things? Like where artists will go
totally.
on like Facebook Live or Instagram Live or whatever?
Yeah, my roommate and I have been talking about doing one of those.
Oh, really?
To like actually do one. Yeah. So we're going to try to do some of those, and hopefully I'll be able to do a little like living room concert series thing.
Yeah, that would be cool. I love watching those. It's almost like everyone's distancing, but it's kind of like you're even more. It's more of like an intimate situation because you know, as an artist, you're inviting everybody into your home essentially, or wherever you are.
Yeah,
and
literally.
But it could also be like maybe it's more comfortable for you in that situation because you are in your own element. Because I'm just hanging out at home.
Sure,
yeah. I think those are really cool. And when this all blows over, hopefully people will, carry on with doing those things. I think they're really, really rad.
It's super fun.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for spending the time to talk to me. Like, we really appreciate it.
No problem.
Usually do this podcast with my wife as well. Oh yeah, totally. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing it. My wife and I usually do it together, but we have 2 kids that are inside, and school's all canceled and stuff. So she wanted to tell me how much she loves your music and what you stand for.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And she's kind of hurting the kids right now, but she wanted me to let you know how much she loves your stuff. So. Oh,
well, say thank you and give her a hug for me.
I will do that. The last question I have for you is if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Ooh, that's a good one. Work hard, be prepared. Because like if you put in the work, then when the opportunities come to you, you'll be ready to go. and you won't be afraid of any of the opportunities. I mean, obviously you might be a little nervous, but like if you put in the work and you really know your craft, then there's nothing to be nervous about. And I think, just be a nice person. That's pretty much it.